Khari Wendell McClelland Freedom Singer album is a true celebration of Black history. The album is a collection of rare and forgotten songs that Khari interprets through many styles and genres. Using folk, gospel, country, hip-hop, and soul, Khari's songs joyfully invoke the spirit of his ancestors who straddled the US-Canadian borders in an effort to escape slavery and discrimination. His music draws from this rich history, integrating the rhythms and folklore of early African Americans with contemporary sounds and stories of struggle. With his Freedom Singer album, Khari has built a bridge from the 1800s to the present day. A diverse and magnetic performer, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Khari Wendell McClelland.
Hello, everybody. It's really good to be here in Calgary, and especially at the National Music Center. It's a real honor and pleasure. And I am excited to spend some time with you to share my own stories, to share the stories of my family, but also just to feel the energy of what it's like to be together for a little bit. The world can feel like a hard place at times, and music has this funny way of calming the soul, making us feel at ease. So, together, we'll get through this. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, you know. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel so all alone, and I'm a long way from home. Precarious setups made for mishaps. I ride the wagon, bound for relapse. Lord, can I get an amen? And some hand claps for testimony, true story, ancient fabled allegory. The ones I've loved, the ones I've left behind, they sometimes leave me crying, and I don't mind dying, 'cause fleeting is the time. And I move across this land, bumping into things that can't be held with hands, only felt like parting words and final goodbyes. Tell me why fleeting is the time. Fleeting is the time. No reasons why, who knows these things? Not me, not you, maybe some king of kings it seems. Fools are we, sages, psychos, jesters, pirates, and mystic winos, baby dolls and rusty nails, wind-blown trees and half-blown sails, praying to the Lord when all else fails, because fleeting is the time. swing low like busted canopies. Everything is wet and you are far out to sea. Yet I still heard you scream, somebody hold me, 'cause fleeting is the time. Yes, fleeting is the time. Fleeting is the time. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, you know. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel so all alone, and I'm a long way from home. So I'm going to ask you to do a favor to me, and that is to say my great-great-great-grandmother's name on the count of 3. And her name is Kizzy. So 1, 2, 3, Kizzy. Yeah, solid performance. I ask you to say that because it in ways that I can and cannot explain, it helps me to feel like I know who I am. Feels like it helps me to walk with my head high. When I have moments where I feel challenged or despondent, I feel like when I hear her name or I think upon her and her life, it helps me to feel strong. And so, you know, you can use Kizzy too if that helps you, but I want you to recognize that there's probably somewhere in your own life, maybe there's a person, a place, maybe there's something that represents what courage looks like for you. Some people find that in religion, some people find that in philosophy, some people have that as a living embodiment in a parent or a grandparent. But it's good to have those reference points because as I kind of alluded to in the last song, life gets challenging sometimes, you know, even for the little people who are here in the audience. Sometimes, you know, it's the hardest being a little kid sometimes, you know. It gets frustrating. You want to do things. Everybody's trying to tell you what to do. You just want to run around and laugh and be loud and have fun, you know. So it can be challenging no matter how old or young you are. You know, as we get older, I'm 46 this year. Certain things are starting to ache a little more. I don't know if you know about that. A couple people know about that, it looks like. Right? But sometimes we really need to be able to call on something to help us. And one other thing that I find that is helpful is to know that we have community and that we have friends. And this next song is really about what it means to be in service to something larger than yourself. What does it mean to be in service to others? And realizing that we have a limited time offer on this thing, and I mean this life, and even just, you know, like the vitality of where we are in this moment, because we're never going to be able to have this moment again, even with all of us gathered together. So there's something special about it. And when we understand that, we treat it like it's precious. We treat the people around us like they're precious. And so I hope this next song helps to remind us all about that. It's called My Time Ain't Long. My time is not long here. I gotta lay this body down. I got the hounds on my trail. It's the cross before the crown. We're gonna die anyway. Let's make a difference. It's hard to tell what's real. It gets harder every day. The direction's so clear. Obstacles are in the way. We're gonna die anyway. Let's make a difference. I know that we, in our silence, we've been asking. I know that we, in our silence, we've been praying. know that we've been asking and praying. Time draws near, form circles, draw plans, choose love over fear, sing our songs and join hands. We're gonna die anyway, let's make a difference. I know that we, in our silence, we've been asking. I know that we, in our silence, we've been praying, yeah, yeah. Spirits below and above, show us some guidance and love, 'cause we're the lost generation, and we have lost all our patience for your deception and lies. No more alibis, no more alibis, no more alibis, no, no. Spirits below and above, show us some guidance and love, 'cause we're the lost generation, and we have lost all our patience for your deception and lies. No more alibis, no more alibis, no more alibis, no, no. Spirits below and above, show us some guidance and love, 'cause we're the lost generation, and we have lost all our patience. This is pretty fun. And you all are really good at clapping. This is helpful. Might call on you again. You know, there's this funny thing about doing something different that may cause other people to feel uncomfortable. Even when you make positive changes in your own life, sometimes the people that are around you are used to you being a certain way, and they don't like it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so sometimes when there are larger problems, like larger injustices in our world, and we try to do a thing that's different, it actually causes a lot of people to feel uncomfortable. So like when women wanted to vote, men were like, I don't know about this. That feels uncomfortable for me. I don't know. Right? Yeah. When different people wanted the right to vote, when black people wanted the right to vote, when indigenous people wanted the right to vote, there were people who were like, I don't know about this. This doesn't seem like a good idea to me. Made people uncomfortable, and the things that people have to do to make the rest of the world recognize what they deserve and what their rights are makes other people uncomfortable. And sometimes we're those people. Sometimes we're the ones who are uncomfortable because we have to shift ourselves. You know, we get into a groove, it's working for us, but then we have to do something different. We got to, strengthen a new muscle or gain some flexibility, and it can be hard. But to know also that whatever side of that coin you're on, that there is this need, this movement towards us treating each other better, treating each other more like full human beings. And this next song is a song like many of the songs that you're hearing right now that's from very, very long ago. These lyrics are from the 1800s. And even though I've interpreted these songs through my own experience and musical knowledge, just to recognize that this idea of a thirst for greater freedom is one that's been around probably as long as human beings have been around. And so all of us are part of this struggle to treat our neighbors better, to recognize how to treat ourselves even better, to ask for what we deserve. So with that, we're going to get into this song. It's called Liberty Song. Trumpet over mountain and sea, proclaim glad tidings, 'cause the slave is free. Sound the trumpet for me. It's time we stand up and tell the truth to the hungry, downtrodden, and forgotten youth. We waited long enough, the cheat is up, it's heating up, our time ain't long. It's time to do more than just sing songs. I want love, sacrifice, dedication, and relief for refugees without a nation. It wasn't that long ago when my great-grand was choked by yokes and at a loss for hope. But with the help of the underground, she made it safe and sound. Went from lost to found, hear the sound. Sound of the people like thunder are speaking. Free men are coming at liberty's call. Pride in the power of the tyrant is breaking. Millions are rising, hey, millions are rising, millions are rising from slavery's throne. Unfurl the banner and swell the chorus. Time to recognize all the ones who opened doors for us. Like Martin and Harriet, waiting for the chariot to carry us home. Working for justice in war zones. We still got work to do. Reparations overdue for catching hell from the prosperous few. Some say we'll get hours in the afterlife, but I'm in love with this life, willing to cut through the strife. Living like my life depends on it. Not for salary, but to be free. If you believe in me like I believe in you. For the whole and not the few. Sound a trumpet for me so we can all be free. Sound a trumpet for me so we can all be free. Sound a trumpet for me so we can all be free. Sound a trumpet for me so we can all be free. Hey. Sound a trumpet for me so we can all be free. Thank you. So with your permission, I'm going to take on this next song without the microphone. How you feel about that? All right. All right. Let's see how this goes. This next song is, it's a song that, maybe of all the songs that I researched, and I'll maybe give you a little bit of background. I was in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, and I was just coming off of a folk festival stage, singing with a group that I sing with called the Sojourners. Anybody ever heard of that group? Yeah, so I was singing with the Sojourners, got off stage, and a woman comes up to me and she hands me a book. And, the energy of where I was coming from to where she was at was a little different. I'm like, yeah! Just got off stage. And she's like, I have this book. I think it might be relevant to you. And I thought, okay. I'm not sure what this is about. Bye-bye. And she said, I wrote this book. It might have relevance to you. You said you have family that came through the Underground Railroad. Well, I wrote this book. It's called I've Got a Home in Gloryland. And initially, when I received the book, I kind of just threw it wherever, put it in my backpack, didn't think about it. And then I got to the hotel maybe a day later, and I'm sitting there, and I pull the book out, and it's got that sticker on it that says Governor General's Award. And I thought, whoa, this lady's serious. She's important. I got to read this book now. And I read this book, and it's changed my life. You know, it really has when I really think about it. It's a book that follows the life of Lucy and Thornton Blackburn. And they escaped from slavery in Kentucky, made their way up through Ohio, and into Michigan eventually to Detroit. And then they were forced to leave Detroit. They went to Windsor, Ontario, Amherstburg, Ontario, and then eventually made their way to Toronto and even started the first taxi servicing in Toronto. Hard to believe, but yeah. And when I read this book, I just kept thinking, wow, this really reminds me of the story that my family held around Kizzy, around my great-great-great-grandmother. And I kept reading these little brief, you know, at the beginning of a chapter, sometimes they have a quotation, an epigraph, and it kind of like, it's often a piece of poetry or verse. And I kept reading these things, and I was like, oh, are these the songs? Are these the songs that accompanied her on her journey as she escaped from slavery? So I don't know if I had said that yet, but my great-great-great-grandmother, Kizzy, she escaped from slavery, like Lucy and Thornton, and went to southern Ontario to Amherstburg. So I was so curious about that journey that I actually wrote to Canada Council. Anybody ever heard of them? They're this amazing organization that helps to, you know, really create opportunities to tell stories that need to be told, I think. And so I had this opportunity to go to Nova Scotia, to southern Ontario, and to places where there were large black settlements very early on, to learn more about the stories of black families and black individuals who had fled from slavery. What I didn't realize is that I was going to learn a lot more than I had expected to learn, and that some of the mythology that I had around Canada was thrown a little bit. You know, one thing I didn't realize is that slavery had taken place on these lands that we call Canada. I didn't know about that. Is that a surprise for anybody? No. You are such a wise one. So, and I love it. You know, it's like, there's no hesitation, right? Right? There's no hesitation. Like, we get older and we're like, no, I'm not going to say that thing. But yes, I appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, so, you know, also my great-great-great-grandmother, she lost her legs, not in the United States, but in Canada due to poor housing and the cold, and would eventually make her way back into Detroit because there were better opportunities for her and her family there. And so I had to understand these sort of complications to a narrative that had been very straightforward for me. And I think what still remains underneath all of that is that there are many people, maybe even in this room, but definitely in this city, who don't have a safe place to be, to live, to thrive, to survive. And more as we are having natural disasters, more and more as there is war and people needing to flee to find safety, this theme or this idea of trying to find a place where they can be safe, where you can be safe with your family. And I should say, Kizzy made her journey into southern Ontario when she was 15. Just think about that, like so young. Such a young person to have to be so courageous and to stand up in front of a world that was trying to tell her that she counted for naught. To stand up in that way, that's really brave, you know? So there's so many people in the world who need that kind of safe harbor. And this next song will speak to that. It's called Song of the Fugitive. I'm on my way to Canada, that cold and dreary land. The burdens of slavery I can no longer stand. I said, no, 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 I now embark for yonder shore, sweet land of liberty. The vessel will bear me over, and I shall soon be free. No more to dread the auctioneer, to fear master's frowns. No more to tremble at the baying of the hounds. I said no, 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 no. I said no, 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 no. I said no, 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 no. I said no. Oh, oh, Father, Father, won't you help me? Oh, oh, Father, won't you help me to be free? Oh, oh, Father, Father, help me. Yeah, I'm safe in Canada, my soul and body free. My blood and tears no more shall drench the soil of Tennessee. And how can I suppress the tears that steal from mine eyes, to think of my friends and kindred as slaves to live and die. I said no, 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 no. I said no, 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 no. I said no, 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 no. I said no. Oh, oh, Father, Father, thank you. Oh, oh, Father, thank you for setting me free. Oh, oh, Father, Father, thank you. It's hard to sing these songs, you know? There's so much that's bound up in it, partly because it's connected to the places that I come from, but I also understand it's connectable because it's a human journey. You know, and it's sad to think that human beings then and now live in a way that is just far less than they deserve. And it's always a hard thing for me to accept, that there are people, you don't even have to go that far in the past, and you don't have to go that far from right here where we're standing to find someone who's struggling, to find someone who didn't get all the things they deserved. You know, there's some children in this audience, and I think about that, about what are we doing when we have so many children that are being failed. And so it gives me pause, and it gives me a sense of purpose, because I really feel like what gives my life so much meaning is the opportunity to be in service to something that is larger than myself. And I think many people in here understand that, you know, whether it's your family or your community or your church or, you know, whatever that thing is, that there's something that we feel proud of ourselves. We love ourselves more when we know that we're actually meaningfully affecting other people's lives. This next song, you're going to hear the voice of a man. His name is William J. Riley. And probably I would be shocked or surprised if anyone in here knows that person's name. But William J. Riley was born during the period of slavery, when slavery was legal in the United States and it was illegal in Canada, which is, there's a 30-year window or so where that was the case. And the fact that we have a recorded voice of someone who had been born when slavery was still in practice is amazing, because we didn't even really have recordings until the late 1920s. So we're going to hear now the voice of one William J. Riley, but I'm curious, is anybody in the crowd willing to share if they are in their 70s? Okay, so we got a couple people in here. It's okay, we don't need to, you know. I already outed myself. I'm 46. I'll say it again. There are so anyone in the room here who is 70 plus could have potentially spoken to someone who had been enslaved. Now that's mind-boggling, right? We don't think we think it's so far in the past. But the fact is that there are actually people still alive who have interacted with people who felt that burden, who had to go through that tragedy. And so I just wanted you to know that it's not that far away from us.
Yes, it's interesting. Yes. There was an old colored man, what did you say?
Start to tell your story again.
Tell your story again. There's an old colored man, what?
What, to hear you, Mr. Riley?
Oh, well, don't stop me when I start.
Yeah.
I get mad. This man, he was in slavery.
There was a man in slavery.
He was a cotton picker. A cotton makes things to pick cotton out of slavery. And they were had a orphan child.
There was a child.
The old slavery holders were going around one night to buy the child.
The slavers were going to buy the child.
And the mother hid him.
The mother hid the
Night,
child.
12 o'clock at night, and took the child and put clothes on and tied him to clothes back. And went and jumped on a cake away from here and there and everywhere to get his trail. And God had told us.
You can sell the pig, you can sell the cow, never the child be sold. Well, you can sell the pig, you can sell the cow, never the child be sold. you can sell the pig, you can sell the cow, never the child be sold. Well, you can sell the pig, you can sell the cow, never the child be sold. Horn will blow, cotton does grow, driver blow his horn. Horn will blow, cotton does grow, driver blow his horn. Ooh. Sell the pig, you can sell the cow, never the child be sold. Well, you can sell the pig, you can sell the cow, never the child be sold. When you hear the church bells ring, ring in a dream. Well, you can sell the pig, you can sell the cow, never the child be sold. Well, you can sell the pig, you can sell the cow, never the child be sold. Never the child be sold. Never the child be You will hear again from William J. Riley, and one of the things that he will share is, you know, the story of how difficult it is to actually bring these songs to light because of the pain that he feels when he has to retell the story again and again. And, you know, I feel like there's a way in which, of course, like as a grandparent, we don't want to tell our grandkids about the worst thing that ever happened to us. And simultaneously, if we forget about the worst things that we can do to one another, then it's much more likely that they will happen again. And I think one of the things that I see in Germany's history since World War II is this real willingness to reflect upon the ways in which there have been failings in humanity in a way that really, I think, helps their society to not reproduce these kinds of things. So we're going to hear from William J. Riley right now.
They have to sing the so that we know them.
So they'll remember that.
They remember how our foreparents was. That's right. They make them. They never stop singing in the States.
No.
They never stop singing in the States. Never. Them songs will never die.
No. You're right.
And it's only the older generation can sing them.
Yes, quite. Well, that's why we.
No more auction block from me. No more. Oh, poor Uncle Tom was dying then.
Yes.
No more auction block from me. Many 1,000 gone. Jesus died on Calvary. Oh yes, oh yes. Jesus died to set me free. Thank him evermore. No more pint of salt for me. No more. No more pint of salt for me. Many 1,000.
no more auction block for me, no more, no more, no more auction block for me, many a thousand's gone, no more driver's lash for me, no more, no more, no more driver's lash for me, many a thousand gone. No, 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 no. No, no. No more crooked cops for me, no more. No more, no more penitentiary, many a thousand gone. No more poison land and sea, no more, no more, no more early death for we, many a thousand gone. No more hypocrisy, no more, no more, no more child poverty, many a thousand gone, again, again, many a thousand gone, again, again, many a thousand gone, many a thousand Yeah, no more. No more. How y'all doing out there? Yeah? You doing all right? Okay. I feel like, one of the things that really helps us, because some of this stuff, it's pretty heavy stuff, But I think one of the things that helps us to get through some of the stuff that's a little challenging is, art, music. We can listen to a song that's a sad song, and it can help us to move through things. Does that make sense? It's like the medicine with that little bit of sugar, the syrup. It's helpful. So one of the things that I think is the most helpful is when we all sing together. And so I'm done up here. I'm not going to do this by myself. Sick and tired of this. You got to help me now. Your part is really easy. Don't feel anxious or nervous. We got this. I really believe this. This is a metaphor, but deep in my heart, I know this to be true, that we want to be good with each other. We don't always know how is the best way to do that. And that almost anything that we face, when we pull together, we can do almost anything. We can get through almost anything. When we pull on each other, when we help each other, help lift each other up, we can get through almost anything. So, I was talking about this with the amazing host on CBC the other day. I was saying, anybody ever had a sweater and there's something itchy in it? You know what I'm talking about? And it's aggravating you? See? How come he's the only one, or she, I don't know, they, whatever. How come they're the only one that's willing to speak in here? Have you ever had a sweater that had something itchy in it and you didn't like it? Okay, thank you. Wow. Now pull those teeth. You know, it's aggravating, you know, and it's the sort of thing where you do almost anything to relieve yourself of that thing, right? That's how I want us to think about when we see a lack in our community for one another, when we see a struggle, when we see injustice happening in our community for one of our brothers and sisters. I want us to have that sense of aggravation so much that we're willing to do almost anything to make it cease. That's what this next song is about. It's called Song of the Agitators, and I'm gonna tell you what your part is right now. All you got to do is say, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that was us. Now you're going to try it. Here, let's go. Mm-hmm. Nice. Let's try this again. No me. Woo, I like it. I just want to hear it one more time because it sounds so good. I don't even need to sing anymore. One more time. Hey. Wow. Talented. Okay. Cease to agitate, we will, when the slave whip sound is still. Mm-hmm. When no more on guiltless limb, fetters cut their circlet grim. Mm-hmm. When no more hounds thirst for blood, scouring the thorny Georgian woods. Mm-hmm. When no more a mother's pleading prayer quivers on the southern air. On that day, we will be family equal, born and free. Dawn will come, night will cease, we'll rejoice, mind at ease. For that day we'll work and wait. That's when we'll cease to agitate. That's when we will cease to agitate. That's when we will cease to agitate. That's when we will cease to agitate. Well, here we are today, still pushing for equal pay. Mm-hmm. And these treaty rights don't hold, they're shiny like the Judas gold. Mm-hmm. And the stain of blood still remains, a mother's only son slain. Mm-hmm. And our kids are crying out for more, continually being ignored. On that day, we will be family equal, born and free. Dawn will come, night will cease, we'll rejoice, minds at ease. On that day we'll work and wait. That's when we'll cease to agitate. Yeah. That's when we. You can sing this part too, I know you can, come on. That's when we. Ooh, you sound good. Come on. That's when we will cease to agitate. That's when we will cease to agitate. That's when we hey, 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 hey. That's when we will cease to agitate. It's amazing what happens when we all pull a little bit of weight. just starts to feel even better, you know? It's pretty amazing. This next song I wrote in the Highlands of Scotland. I was feeling bummed out about whatever, as we are all prone to do from time to time, just feel bummed out for reasons that we can or cannot explain. And so I hope this song can be a song of encouragement for you. It's called Roll On. You know, when you feel defeated and you need something to help you get through, I hope this song can help you to do that. I sang my song to the river in the valley below, in the hopes it might wash away my sorrow. And as I walked away, I heard the river clearly say, roll on, my son, roll on. Roll on, roll on. Roll on, roll on. You could sigh, you could cry, you could almost die. Roll on, roll on. Even though it's hard to know, roll on, hold on, roll. Even though it's hard to know, roll on, hold on, roll on. Roll on, roll on, roll on. I sang my song to the river in the valley below, in the hopes it might wash away my sorrow. I did as I was told by the people of old. Roll on, roll on, roll on. Even though it's hard to know, you gotta roll on, roll. Even though I know it gets hard sometimes, but you gotta roll. Hold on, roll. Even though it's hard to know, roll on, hold on, roll. Even though I know it's gonna get hard sometimes, but you gotta roll on, hold on. Thank you so much. Noah Walker on guitar. Tanika Charles over here. Send her love. She's nominated for a Juno this year. We want to see you win. I know that we're going to have a few questions in that, and maybe I'll ask you to come up and...
But before you do, everyone please give it up for Khari McLelland. He's a magician. He's a poet. He's an angel. Well done, Khari. Thank you.
Thank you, sweetie.
What an incredibly powerful and moving performance. Did anyone else cry? I did. I was up there just, it was amazing. Thank you so much, Khari. It's such a pleasure to have you here and to share these stories about Canada. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on the story behind this album and these songs.
As I said, I went to the archives in Halifax. I went to archives in Amherstburg. I looked at all sorts of online resources, and I tried to find a verse that had been lost. There are some songs that will be familiar or recognizable to people, but I also just wanted to try and find stuff that seemed really rare. And it turned out that most of the songs that tended to be quite rare were the songs that actually were really, Never the Child Be Sold, a song like that. It's never going to be a pop song, but it definitely tells an important story, a story that shouldn't be lost, that there were people who were deeply mourning because their children, or their child had been stolen from them, and that this is a part of our shared history, and that I just wanted to find songs that could actually help to remind us of the kind of people that we want to be and the kind of people we don't want to be.
Beautiful. So it really ties into Canada's narrative. Can you just elaborate on why this is such an important story to tell?
Yeah, I think like all nations, there's a tendency to want to shine the light on the things that are, hey, we're courageous and friendly. We welcome people when things happen. And I didn't really go into this earlier, but there was a period of time I said between that 30 years when the United States didn't have or had slavery and Canada didn't. But before then, there were black people who were escaping from Ontario and other places in Canada into the United States because it was safer for them to be in a northern state than it was to be in Canada. So that's, there are many things about the narratives that we tell ourselves about ourselves that highlight what we want to highlight, but we don't want to talk about the lowlights. The things that are actually, that are in some ways embarrassing or we feel shameful about. But I think, like all of us, if we want to improve ourselves, the thing is not to just always look at like what's positive about what we're doing, but to look at the places where we could actually do something better. And so my hope is that this body of music, these songs and these stories that I'm sharing with you, I hope that they can influence people to have a more complex narrative around Canada, but also to feel proud. It's okay to feel proud about the ways in which people supported that movement of people into Canada at that time, but to also understand that we're not perfect and there's still room to grow and be better.
How many of you learned something new today? Yeah. How many of you feel a little more fulfilled now that you've seen this show? Khari, you do a wonderful job of making us feel like we're part of something bigger. It's profound and beautiful, and I'm so appreciative to have you here. Now, I think we have time for maybe one or two questions from the audience. If you do have a question, we are going to run over with a microphone so that the people that are tuning in online can hear your question as well. So,
can we get some house lights?
Yeah. Are you there?
We pulled teeth earlier. Don't make us do it again. If you have a question, you don't have to have a question. Sure, go ahead.
Hi, Khari.
Hi.
I'm just wondering about what it was like to research this project and like what your response was from people like while you were in there digging around, and sort of maybe you can tell us, because I imagine it was probably an emotional experience for you, but I just wonder about sort of people around that, and just what was it like for you to like be in those places and for those people to answer those questions?
Lots of deep emotional, I even like as you ask the question, I start to feel emotional. Like you go to these sites or you hear stories from your great aunt about the journey of your great-great-grandmother. You know, I never knew that she had lost her legs because she didn't have proper housing in Canada, and that's why she had lost her legs. There's the very personal story that I have around my great-great-great-grandmother. There's actually a CBC documentary that you can check out if you want to know about this journey and about the story in more detail. There's also a tapestry documentary. Just look for Freedom Singer and you'll be able to find it. But I also wasn't able to find a lot of detail around the exact things that I wanted to know about my great-great-great-grandmother Kizzy, and that was hard. It was really hard to realize that, and this is true of history, you don't need to go that far back. If you find a really old church and you look for women who significantly contributed to old churches, they don't say the women's names. They just say Mrs. James so-and-so, Mrs. Charles so-and-so. They don't even give the women, they don't even let them put their own names on stuff. So the idea that my grandmother is lost in history is unsurprising. It's unsurprising because she didn't count for much in that world. She did to herself. She did to her family. She does to me and hopefully to some of you now. But I think it's, there's lots that was really moving. Also, just the courage that it takes when the whole world is telling you you're worthless, to get up in the morning and to be like, no, I deserve more than this. I know it. That's really hard. So, hopefully that helps.
I think we have one up there, Kat. Just a black hat in the middle there.
Thanks. Khari, thank you so much. That was incredibly powerful. So you grew up in Detroit, and you're a binational person, I would say, right? Do you have any reflections on, doing that research in the United States of America versus the things you've kind of discovered in your research in Canada? Any reflections on maybe the contrast or difference in the dialogue around race and race relations, comparing Canada to America?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I would say is that there are definitely relative differences. I think the society as a whole in Canada is less violent, and that a lot of the things that I can very clearly pinpoint to in the United States, like Trayvon Martin being killed, or improper police action towards black people in the society, exorbitant prison population that is filled disproportionately with black people. But the thing is that those same things are actually true in Canada, but they're less violent. Like the proportion of black people in the prison population in Canada is disproportionate. Now, some people might make the argument, well, black people are just biologically inferior. I don't really believe that. What I believe is that what we've created is a world and a history and a course of history that hasn't quite adjusted to really fully include those people. It's like saying women, they're not really smart enough to do anything outside the house. That's why they're in the house. No, that's not why they're in the house. They're in the house because the world was structured in such a way that didn't allow them to have the freedoms to do the things that they're actually fully capable of doing. And so I think that's a thing for me. Like, I've been stopped and frisked by police in Vancouver, which is my home now, and I lived in the States for 26 years and never had it happen once. So I just want to say, this is the real deal. This is and this is what I mean, there's so much to be celebrated about being here. There's so much that's good and beautiful about this place and about the way that we are together. Healthcare, come on. I mean, it's such a significant lightening of the load for people. And we still got work to do. That's what I try and tell people is the work that we need to do on ourselves and as a community, there's no plateau. You don't get there and then you're like, yeah, we're perfectly great. We don't need to do any more work. It's no, we want to keep getting better at doing this thing of being in relationship with one another. We still got room to grow. Yeah.
Amen. All right, I think we could take one more. Oleg, it looks like there's one in the back there. Thank you for taking the questions, Khari.
I kind of have more of a comment than a question. I think you've talked about something that I think is very important. That's kind of the freedom to act in integrity and to talk about things that are maybe not particularly easy to talk about, and to maybe, it's all set up, but it's still not quite working. Well, why isn't it working? And to have that discourse. And I think that's incredibly important today, especially with advertising and kind of, you get these scientific studies that, will just tell you the positive stuff, and we don't really open up that space to talk about the other things that are going on, and I think that that's actually really important to bring those things up. So I think, I just wanted to say, do you think there's a freedom in having that type of integrity to maybe just not always be, yay, this is great, but talk about the things that are hard?
Yeah, and I think that people actually crave to talk about something that's real. I do work with schools and I do work with teenagers, and teenagers are notoriously bad to have to work with because they're so, right? But what I find is that they just want to talk about real stuff. They're like, why are we talking about trigonometry right now? I don't know if you use any of the adults in the room. Have you used trigonometry this week? Maybe one or two. One or two or three. Okay, four. But let's explode this to the population at, wide. Most people aren't going to use complex equations in their daily life, or even past, a certain kind of educational space. So it's great that is available for those who are going to use that later on, but there's also all this other stuff about life that they could really use some help with. And they're really, I think, being failed in their schools. I love, I think anytime as a community we get the opportunity to get together and talk about stuff that really matters, it's great. And sometimes that's going to look really positive, there are lots of victories, but there's also lots of failures. And what I believe about the church tradition that my community comes from, the Black church, there was room for us to talk about our victories, but there's also room to talk about the ways that we failed and the things that we need to do better and the things that we need help with. So I hope that answers that. Thank you so much, everyone.
Tanika,
Thank you.
Noah, Khari, thank you so much.